Alright guys, this is Dale. Welcome to the NT Zone. Last time I posted, I talked about Know Thyself. This is the next uh, part of this series, the last part of it too, of Know Thyself. Now this part is less about Know Thyself, but more about Know Others. So, the first part dealt with means in which you can know yourself and why you should know yourself and so on. This part will deal with a few different methods. I actually have a psychology, personology, and typology chat. Um, Comment if you want to join. I will find you. I will send you my Facebook page, or else I will ask you to send me your Facebook page and we'll get it together. But that said, how do you know others? There are several methods. One is looking at core fears and desire, and that's the Enneagram method. It's also kind of the method used by the ancient Chinese. More on that in a different video. You have cognitive functions. You have human functions, which are found in Enneagram. Remember back to that video I did on the fact that Enneagram has functions, which was a very exciting video to make. But you also have interaction styles. You have temperaments, KFC temperaments. You look at traits. There's all sorts of ways you can know others. But which one is preferable? Well, we'll find out. Now, first, let's talk about cognitive functions. This is my preferred method, at least for the Jungian stuff. I also like the method of looking at core fears and desires in an isolated sense. But first, we'll talk about this. So, cognitive functions. They are thinking, feeling, sensing, intuition. You divide them up into attitudes. Attitudes because they are biases. Extroverted versus introverted. So, what does that mean? Well, there's a problem. There's a disconnect. In fact, I can take several videos to correct a lot of the disconnects that happen because of bad sources or because of people who do not use their logical brains to look at what is being said by Jung. Or they might be misguided and use sources that are more, or that's not psychological, but business oriented. Which there's nothing wrong with that. If it works for you, it works for you. But if you're interested in psychological truth, you need to go beyond that. Anyway, the biggest challenge to this method is that it's kind of needing an in-depth knowledge of the functions. Now I will compensate for this. I've actually compensated for it a few times in the past, and I'll do it more. What does each function mean? What does this function with its attitude look like going to the sovereign, the dominant, to the attendant, or the auxiliary, or the serf? I call it the serf, but it's tertiary. Or the function which I would call totally foreign, which is the inferior function. And, okay, so the fact of it being extroverted or introverted will suppress the other side, but it will not make it unconscious. The most unconscious of these, of course, according to Jung, is the inferior function. Now, there are people who would say that you are conscious of it. Yeah, kind of. People will have to point it out to you. And then you have to work on trying to connect the dots to reach that function. Otherwise, it will be kind of neurotic, kind of uncontrollable. You're kind of a slave to it. As an INTP, I find this with extroverted feeling. I do not want to be the type that has to deal with other people, but you kind of have to. You need other people's opinions, especially if you want to look at systems of thought and look for true things, as well as connect the dots and work in society. But here's the thing: some people will call me kind, some people will not. I cannot tell you what is kind about me. I cannot tell you what's not kind about me. It's really difficult for me. So how you know your inferior function, well, it's the opposite of your dominant function. That's the simple way. But at the same time, you might find it really difficult to comprehend that your inferior function even exists within you because it's unconscious to you. Now, on the John Beebe idea, let me enunciate that he is right and wrong at the same time. He is right in that, okay, well, there are these functions here, and then you have these attitudes, and the attitudes suppress each of the functions. But he's wrong in the sense that, so like INTP or TINESIFE, so the TI will suppress the TE, but it's still very conscious. In fact, it's more conscious. The TE is kind of more conscious, although it's not preferable to the TI. But it's more conscious than the NE and the NI. The NI, NE, there's about this, like, it's more conscious than the SISC, but the NI and NE are kind of suppressed out by one preference over the other. So the NE preference suppresses the NI preference. Now you go further along the lines, SI kind of suppresses SE, FE suppresses FI. So if your attitudes in the FE are the extroverted attitude of the feeling, what does this mean for introverted feeling? Well, I always think of FE as an inferior way of approaching the world. So when it comes to my problem of type, of course, so what happens is that I might get totally hostile and even allergic to FI. But as I grow and incorporate more of the functions in, I might learn to tolerate it. So the SI, so that's the tertiary function. It's, well, Dr. Linda Behrens, or was it MD, Dario Nardi talked about it as a neurotic function. But from my observations, looking at different people of different types, it could be either way. It could be neurotic, it could be totally excellent. I know a female ENTP, and she has pretty strong FE. She likes to harmonize things a lot, but at the same time, her TI is stronger than the FE, so she might not seem like she tolerates much when you get to know her, but she will, to people who do not know her, seem like she tolerates a lot. She just does not talk about it. She likes to put people in their place when they're arrogant, for example. And good news, guys. Although I do not know exactly when that particular person I have been inviting back to the channel for an interview on the Keirsey temperaments. Still working on that a little bit, but I spent a lot of time on the cognitive functions. Okay, so what about other things? So Keirsey temperaments. You look at these traits. The rational, you have idealist. Rational is uh, abstract and pragmatic. Idealist is abstract but cooperative. Down here, guardians, concrete and sort of cooperative, versus artisans, which are concrete and pragmatic. Then he divides them into several different roles. Now, I will not get into each role because I've spent too much time on the cognitive functions already, for rightful reasons. But the whole entire idea is I'll just use two different roles to demonstrate this, but this can be shown all throughout the board. So the designer, INTP, versus the modeler, ENTP. So the designer can still function as a modeler, but also the modeler can function as a designer. But if you read into Keirsey's books, you have certain designers, President James Madison, who could actually still function as the INTJ, even though he's an INTP. By the way, I am one of those types of INTPs, by the way. Yet here's the problem here. It's not quite precise. It will get you, but it's better than nothing. It will get you to two different possible solutions if you look at it long enough. You're either this way or that way. But, by the way, the Keirsey organization online, I forgot the name of the website. I do respect Dr. Keirsey's son and so on, but they do not focus as much on personology as they do to the classic Keirsey temperament disorder, which is okay. That's how you make your money, is solve the test and educate people. Most of the books, of course, are seemingly out of print. You can only get them used. So I would have to say the cognitive functions, definitely. Keirsey temperament will say it's pretty okay, because I think at the end of the day, you can choose between these two and see which is most likely. Of course, you have to realize that typology itself is something that's representative. It should be done as a reference to the best guess. You are not your type. You are an individual. Your type is a representation of who you are. Okay, next, we're going to go over what we call the styles of communication, or interaction styles. The 4 interaction styles, according to Dr. Linda Behrens. Now, I do not have her book on it, but this actually still has parts of it. Just not as much detail as her book, apparently. I will do a more in-depth video on that later. But this is from An Introduction to the Personality Type Code by Linda V. Behrens and Dio Nardi. So basically, the idea is that you have directing, informative, responding, initiating. And within this, she divides, and he divides it as behind the scenes, under informing, responding, push for the best result, support the group processes, consultative decisions, understand the process focus, informing, initiating, get things going, push for involvement, felicitate the group process, enthusiastic decisions, interaction, focus, directing, responding, chart the course, push for a plan of action, keep the group on track, deliberate decisions, define the process of focus, finally, initiating, directing, in charge, push for completion, lead the group to a goal, quick decisions, results focused. And of course, she has a temperament matrix because she bases her work largely on Dr. David Keirsey. She's basically the intellectual successor of Dr. David Keirsey. Okay, some people would say Dr. David Keirsey's son, I respect him, but I would have to say Dr. Linda Behrens goes very, like, she's a psychologist and she goes to edit the system and make it um, kind of her own and adding more developments, as we can see here. So the temperamental matrix, of course, you have idealists, guardians, rationals, and artisans. So like if you were, let's say, behind the scenes, you would be either ISFJ, INFP, let's see here, INTP, or ISFP. If you were chart the course, you'd be INFJ, ISTJ, INTJ, and ISTP. If you were in charge, ENFJ, ESTJ, ENTJ, ESTP. If you were, let's see here, get things going, you would be ENFP, ESFJ, ENTP, ESFP. Okay, so we got that. Now for my evaluation of the system. Of course, I will give a better evaluation later, but from initial views. Of course, I've been researching the system for a while. I have a friend who's another YouTuber. He loves this stuff. But here's the thing. As I look at the different list, of course, when I'm casual, I'm behind the scenes. If I'm leading a book club or something, I'm usually get things going. But if you see me making money and having to lead people, I'm usually chart the course. But if I get pissed off or angry in any way, I am in charge. The reason why is because the communication styles, the interaction styles, it does have some good points. There are a relative amount of language you can have for each of the functions. I'll get into that in detail later. But for example, the NI is very analogical. They have this vision in their heads. They see stuff that other people do not see. And so if you're high in NI, you're probably going to use a lot of analogies. Jordan Peterson, he uses a lot of analogies. Clean your room. He talks about the dragons you must slay. Just to give one example. And of course, if you don't believe me, watch videos by Jung talking about his patients who have NI. But anyway, that all aside, since it seems like you can use all the interaction styles at different points in your life, according to different expressions of you. It seems like it doesn't go to that level of linguistic analysis. Instead, it talks about these vague concepts, which seem to be more situational. So, for me, I would say, yes, it might be useful, interaction styles. It might help some people, but when it comes to actually finding out someone's most likely type, I would deny its use as probably something you would probably want to start with, but not something you want to end with. Okay, next we're going to go over with the idea of you're looking at desires, like true internal desires versus true internal fears. Now, this itself, it kind of is strongly associated with Enneagram. I'm not going to talk about the Enneagram types right now, but if you're going to look at any type of personality, Look at what people find happy. Look at what people find when they want to have a really bad day. So they look at these things and it creates a bad day for them. That whole entire idea, you get basically a lot of data from. So people who are intellectuals might enjoy reading or thinking or discussing ideas. So what they really like to do is learn. For example, I can give other examples too. But that said, I would have to give this also a pretty high rating. I would put it not quite at the level of cognitive functions and functions of the human person, although I'd have to say it's kind of like an auxiliary to those things. So I'm going to place that probably in second tier, cognitive functions first tier, accuracy temperaments third tier, and the whole entire idea of interaction styles as kind of lower tier. So, this is a long video. I'm tired. I got some reading to do. So, what I want to do is ask you to like, comment, subscribe. Thank you for listening this long. And I hope to see you in the next video. Also, please join my chat. If you do, you'll find a good community. We have a lot of very intelligent people, a lot of bright stuff. We also have psychological knowledge that we have accumulated to help you find your type, to help you find out other people's type, to help you out if you have problems in your life. So it's a good community. I really recommend it. So like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for watching. Tell me, do you find my list of possible typing methods to be helpful? Do you agree with me? Just let me know in the comments. Which one would you put top tier? Which one would you put low tier? I will read each of them. So, see you in the next one.